guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be doing my foundation slash base routine, where I'm going to show you which kind of primers, foundation, bronzer, blush things that I use on my face. I just honestly want to share with you my tips and tricks on how to get a flawless base and get a medium to full coverage that still looks really nice without looking too heavy. But before we actually get into the video, I've got something really exciting to share with you. I am going to be doing Vidmas! I am going to be doing a video every single day till Christmas, and I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be doing a lot of different videos. It's not just going to be beauty, it's just going to be so much fun, so I can't wait to do Vidmas. And if you've got any video ideas at all, any video requests for Vidmas, leave them down below, because I would love to do videos that you guys want to see as well. But now I've been babbling way too much, let's get into the actual foundation routine. And just some basic info about my skin before we actually begin. I've got like normal to slightly oily to slightly dry. So my face has got a mind of its own really. Some days it is kind of oily and some days it's kind of like dry. It really depends on the weather, my stress level, how I'm feeling, how my skin is feeling. So it is very temperamental, and it also has got so much to do with hormones and stuff like that. Today my skin feels very nice and normal, but some days it is more dry and some days it is more oily. So I've got normal to carbonated skin, and personally for me my favorite kind of finish of a foundation is actually not dewy, not oily, but somewhere in the middle. So if you like that somewhere in the middle like me, you'll like this video. The first thing I always do is to make sure that my fingers and hands are clean. So I'm going to use a hand sanitizer. It doesn't matter which brand it's from or whatever, just use one to clean and cleanse your hands, because we don't want any germs or bacteria on our face. Then the next step for me is to use some primers. And yes, I said primers because I actually don't only stick to one. I've got some different ones that I like to use, and I like to use them in conjunction of each other because they do different things. But the first two that I'm going to mix together are these two. It is the Matte PREP+PRIME CC cream, and it's got SPF 30, so it also protects my skin from the sun during the day, which is really nice. I've got the neutralizing one because it neutralizes redness in your skin and just gives it a much more even skin tone. And I'm actually mixing it with Makeup Forever's Step 1 Skin Equalizer, and this one is the Hydrating Primer. They've got so many different primers. This is the only one that I've tried out and I love it. It is so hydrating, so lovely on the skin, and it keeps my skin feeling fresh and hydrated during the day. So I'm just taking some of the CC cream out on my nose, as you can see, and then I'm mixing it in with the Makeup Forever Hydrating Primer. So I use the same amount actually of them, and then I'm just blending them together with my fingers and then spreading them out on my skin. And this is why it is so important to have clean hands, because I'm using my fingers and my hands to blend it into my skin. And I make sure to get it all the way into the nostril area as well, and under my eyes, just all around the face really. And once that is done, I'm going to use a third primer. Yes, I know I am a crazy person, but it really works for me. I'm gonna use the Benefit, the Professional Pro Bomb to minimize the appearance of pores primer. I like to use it on my, the upper parts of my cheeks, under my eyes, and also on my nose and my chin as well, because I just feel like that is kind of like where my makeup tends to wear off or settle into my smaller pores or whatever you like to call them. So I just like to use it in my kind of like T-zone area. It smooths out the skin so nicely and it just makes my foundation look much more perfect when I apply it. So I'm also just applying it onto my nose, and then once again using my fingers This primer is also oil-free, but it does feel kind of silicone-y, so don't use too much of it. So once I've done these 3 steps, I already feel like my skin looks so much better. It looks much more even in its skin tone, and I know that it will also prolong the wear of my foundation and the rest of my makeup. So I just feel like that priming your face is such an important step, and seriously, It is a crime not to prime, so please remember to prime. But use a primer that works for your skin and your skin condition as well. You do you. So the next step for me is obviously foundation, and I've got so many foundations that I like, but right now and recently I've been loving the Too Faced Born This Way foundation, and I love it. It is oil free. It is kind of like I would say medium coverage, at least on me. I really feel like that it makes my skin look so perfect, so beautiful, but without it looking too unnatural, and it doesn't feel heavy on the skin either. I've got it in the color Ivory, and it is a bit more of a yellow undertone in it, which I really like, but there are so many different shades of this foundation, so you go find your shade because you can definitely do that. And what I do is that I just take one pump on one cheek and one pump on the other cheek. Then I'm just using my finger once again just to distribute the product all out on my face. And to blend it out, you could easily use a brush, you can use your fingers, but I am going to use my trusty old friend, my BeautyBlender. This is my favorite tool for blending out my foundation. And then I'm just, as you can see, dotting onto my skin with this one and blending in the foundation. And I'm not dragging it anyway, I'm just pounding it onto my skin. And I just really try to make sure that I get it distributed all out on my face. I'm also trying to blend it down onto my neck, not too far down, but just still so there's no line or anything like that. And I actually spent a fair amount of time just bouncing the BeautyBlender and making sure there are no streaking or anything like that going on. I just really want the foundation to sink into my skin. And once you're done with blending in the foundation, here's the finished result. As I said, I used 2 pounds of the foundation, and I feel like that it's given me a really lovely medium coverage. So I really like the foundation. And in my mind, it's great for both oily skin because it's oil free, but it's also great for people who've got dry skin or combined skin. But now, because I really want a flawless base, I am going to be using the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. This is in the color NC20. And I really like this one for covering up spots or anything like that. I personally don't like to use it under my eyes because I feel like it is too drying and too thick. But on spots or wherever around on my face, I really like it because it is really high coverage. And I'm just taking it out on the back of my hand. I'm just using 1 pump of it. And then I'm just using my finger once again just to blend it out wherever I've got some things that I want to cover. I'm mostly using it also around my nose area because us women, we tend to be really red around our nose because of stupid hormones. Thank you, hormones. I love you not. And then once again, I'm just going in with my BeautyBlender, but this time I'm going to use the pointed tip actually to blend it in because then I can get all the way into the nostril area because this side is more rounded, as you can see, so it's difficult for me to get all the way in there. And I'm just doing the same trick with pounding and bouncing and yeah, just blending it into my skin. In that way, I'm also not taking any of the foundation away, I'm just building up the coverage. So now, after having applied the concealer as well, I would say we're between a medium full coverage, and it is not a dewy finish, but it's not a matte finish either. As I said, it's somewhere in the middle, which I really personally like. And now I'm going to move on to my eye area because I also like to conceal and highlight a tiny bit so I look a bit more fresh and awake. And I actually do 2 things. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my MAC Pro Longwear Concealer on my eyelids. And I'm using that both as a base, but I'm also using it just to make sure that there is no redness because, I don't know, I've just got some veiny red eyelids, and as you can see, it's just a flesh-toned base, primer, whatever you like to call it. And I, as I said, use it both to neutralize my eye area, but I also use it as a primer for my eyeshadows. And then I'm just using a brush to apply it onto my skin. And I'm not using too much of it because it is a tiny bit thick, and I don't want it to look chunky, so don't use too much of it at a time, just a tiny bit so you make sure that it doesn't look red but that it doesn't look cakey. Sometimes less is more, and sometimes more is less, but in this case, less is more. And the brush that I'm using is just a Real Techniques Deluxe Crease brush because it is with synthetic hairs, so it is just the best brush if you ask me to get the product onto my skin. I've got two concealers that I really like to use under my eyes. The first one here is the L'Oreal Perfect Match or True Match concealer in the color Ivory. It is really good. It is not too thick in its texture, but it still has got some coverage, and it really kind of like highlights under my eyes and makes me look much more awake. And I also like to use the Bobbi Brown Tinted Eye Brightener. The name kind of says it all, really, Tinted Eye Brightener. It just gives a little extra tint under the eyes and it brightens up so much. And I've got this one in the color Porcelain Peach. But today I'm going to be using the L'Oreal True Match concealer just to show you that a drugstore concealer is just as good as a high-end. And I'm kind of like using it in a triangle, as you can see. And some would say, oh my god, you use so much. But honestly, when you blend it out into the skin, it just looks so perfect. And I make sure also to get all the way into the inner part of my eye, right here into the inner corner, because that is often where you're most like blue and discolored. And then I'm also using it just on my nose as well, and Cupid's bow and under my eyebrows, because I'm also kind of like highlighting with it. Before blending it in, I'm just going to quickly tell you that after I've blended it in, I am going to be very quick because I'm going to be using my powder to set it and to bake it under my eyes to make sure that it doesn't go cakey or settle into the fine lines. I want it to look perfect. And the powder that I'm using at the moment is the Chanel Natural Finish Loose Powder, and this is in the color 13 Natural or Translucent number 2. And I'm still using the pointy side so I can get all the way up under my eyes. And I also just pound on my eyelids just to make sure that I've blended in the eye base from MAC perfectly. And then I'm taking my Beauty Blender and the powder, and I'm going to use a Beauty Blender to bake under my eyes. And I'm using fairly much of the powder. I'm just going to put a lot of it under my eyes and then let my powder bake under my eyes and just set my concealer. It prolongs the wear of my concealer and makes sure that it doesn't go cakey. It really just sets everything in place. And I'm also doing it on my eyelids as well. And while I'm letting that doing its thing, I'm also going to be using it in this area of my face, so the upper part of my cheek area. I'm going to use it as well on my nose and on my chin area, and also a tiny bit on my forehead. And one more thing, I also make sure to get all the way around my nostril area, because once again, a creasing concealer in there just doesn't look pretty or cute at all. It looks like small boogers and it's just not cute. And then on my cheek area, on the upper part of my cheek area. And that will also help me when I'm going to apply my highlighter, my blush and my bronzer, so it doesn't go cakey. I'm just going to let it bake for some minutes just to make sure that it really settles and sets into my skin. You know what, I'm just going to do my brows and then I'll return to you. Hey guys, so I'm back again after like 5 minutes or so, and I've just let my powder bake under my eyes in those 5 minutes where I just did my eyebrows, and I also put on some highlighter. But now it is time to remove the excess powder under my eyes. I am just going to be using a fan brush that is not too, I don't know, dense in its head. It's really fluffy. It will just remove the excess powder. Ta-da! So here is my base. This is my foundation, concealer and powder face. Obviously you can tell that I'm wearing foundation because my skin looks flawless, but I personally really like that, and I feel like that my foundation, it won't move at all. It's going to stay for the entire day, and also my under eye area is going to be like this for the entire day because I set it with the powder and I baked under my eyes, and baking is just, it is just key. It's just the best thing ever. And also, as you can see, it doesn't look matte, at least not to me, but it doesn't look dewy either. It is somewhere in the middle, which I personally love. Dear Mother of Jesus, I'm talking way too much. Let's move on to some bronzer because I feel like bronzer makes the world of a difference to the skin. It just gives some more dimension, some more warmth. And the thing that I'm going to use for that job is the Too Faced, the little black book of bronzes. And as you can see, it comes with so many different choices when it comes to bronzes, and also kind of like blushes and a tiny bit of highlighter as well. And my two favorites are these two actually. So the Milk Chocolate Soleil and the Chocolate Soleil. And I like Milk Chocolate Soleil because I can actually also use it to kind of contour a tiny bit. It is not too ashy, it's not too warm, so I can use it both to kind of like contour and bronze up my skin. And that one is obviously a bronzer shade to me. The brush that I'm going to use is my Bobbi Brown Sheer Powder Brush. It is kind of like tapered out at the end, which means that I can be a bit more precise with it, but it's still fluffy enough to kind of like distribute the product out onto my cheek area. First, I'm going to use the Milk Chocolate Soleil, and I'm just using the tip of my brush, and then I'm applying it in the hollows of my cheeks. And be sure not to go too much into the cheek area. And then I use Real Techniques powder brush. This is the one called number 100. As you can see, it just distributes the product so nicely. It just diffuses it a bit more. As you can see, it gives me a bit more dimension to my skin, a bit more cheekbone as well. And now I'm going to be using a mixture of the Milk Chocolate Soleil and the Chocolate Soleil. And then I'm going to use it here on my forehead to create some warmth to my skin. So around my hairline, my temples as well. And then I just do a tiny bit of nose contouring. I'm going to use my MAC 217 blending brush, and then I'm using the Milk Chocolate Soleil powder, and then I'm just doing some small strokes like this on my nose. And this is just on the sides of my nose, and it's just going to make my nose look smaller, more pointy. And always try to blend into the point of the nose, not outwards, because then you make your nose look bigger. Once again, it's all about creating dimension to the skin, and I think this looks really, really pretty. Just gonna take one tiny bit of the chocolate bronzer and apply it just in the outer part. And now for my kind of like favorite part, I'm going to do some highlighting and blush in one. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix two highlighters. And I know that sounds so crazy, and it is a bit OTT. I love highlighting. I think it looks so pretty, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna use these two Becca Shimmering Skin Perfectors, and the first one I'm going to use is the one called Opal. It looks like this, and it is absolutely gorgeous. But because I am fair and I am really pale, it is much better on me as kind of like a blush slash highlighter. And the brush that I like to use for that is the Real Techniques Duo Fiber Contour Brush, because it is not too big and it's really, really fluffy and lovely to work with. So I'm just going to use it right here. And I'm just blending it into my skin in circular motions. Already now, as you can see, we've got the glow on, but to make it even more glowy and beautiful, I am going to use the one called Moonstone. Just looking at it, I'm just like dying. Obviously now I've already got a tiny bit of highlighter going on, and to normal people who are not as crazy with highlighting as me, this is more than enough. You can just stop here, but if you want to go all the way, which I'm going to do obviously, you need this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use the Real Techniques setting brush to apply the highlighter because I'm going to do it in one specific area right here, just on top. So I'm just using the pointy side and then applying it. So this is on the highest point of the cheek area. Be very, very, very specific here. You don't want to look like a disco ball, but you still want the nice glow. And then I'm also using it on the tip of my nose and on my cupid's bow. Let's just quickly apply some lip gloss. I'm going to use the BOBBI Brown High Shimmer Lip Gloss in the color Bellini. And this has absolutely nothing to do with a foundation routine or base routine, but it's the finishing touches. And here's my finished base foundation routine, and I think it looks so beautiful. As you can see, it is very glowy, it is very healthy looking. Personally, this is how I want my skin to look. It looks flawless, it looks evened out, and you get some different dimensions as well. I think it looks so beautiful. And the highlighter thing, it just gives that little extra touch of beautifulness and magic and Obviously, I know some people would say this is way too much for them. They think it's way too much product on the skin. However, I don't feel like that I'm wearing much makeup on my skin, and I really think that it's so important to pick quality products that work on your skin and try them out, make sure that they work 100%. And that was actually all for my base / foundation routine, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful for you guys. I just gave you my tips and tricks and my ways of applying my foundation, concealer, blush, whatever. And by the way, there's going to be a video on Tuesday because on Tuesday it's my birthday. It's on the 10th of November, and yeah, I'm going to do my birthday makeup for you guys because I want to share it with you. I did it last year as well, and I want to make it a tradition here on my channel. So be excited for that because I'm really excited. I can't wait for my birthday. But thank you so much for watching and have the most amazing day.